When you have four terms, one way that you may be able to factor this polynomial is to split the four terms into two groups of two. This is called factoring by grouping. Now, when you split the terms, usually what you want to do is put the first two together and keep the sign that's sitting in the middle with the second group of things so that we can always have two and two like this, and you don't have some random sign just sitting there. Now, what you're going to do is look at each side of this and say, how can I factor each side? Well, if I look at this left-hand side here, I can see that there is a 2 and an x squared in both of these terms. And remembering factoring is dividing. When I divide 2x cubed by 2x squared, I'm left with x. When I divide 8x squared by 2x squared, I'm left with 4. So when we do this factoring, we are left with an x minus 4. Now look at the second side, and here's the big trick. If there's a minus sign sitting right here, that is always going to have to get factored out. You are never going to want a minus sign in your ended factor. So there's nothing in common between x and 4, so all we're going to do here is factor out the minus 1. So what is negative x divided by negative 1? Well, that's just x. What's positive 4 divided by negative 1? That's a minus 4. And so you can see we now have two things that are factored. But what do we see that's common between these two halves now? What do they now have in common that's a little funky looking? Well, they both have this x minus 4 in common. So that is going to be what we factor out of the two big halves. So just like we took 2x squared out of that front half, we're going to take x minus 4 out of these two big halves. So I'm going to put the x minus 4 in the front, and then I'm going to ask myself, okay, well, what is left? Remember, it's dividing. If I take 2x squared times x minus 4 and I divide that by x minus 4, what's left? Well, all that's left is a 2x squared. Now look at the second half over here. If I have negative x minus 4 and I divide that by x minus 4, what's left? Well, x minus 4 divided by x minus 4 is what? 1. Always think divide. So we're going to be left with 2x squared minus 1. And we have now factored this down into two binomials. So our final answer here will be x minus 4 times 2x squared minus 1. Final answer. Let's look at our second example. Again, notice this one isn't even in order. Sometimes that's okay, sometimes it's not. So let's see how this one goes. We have four terms, so our brain goes factor by grouping. We're going to cut the four terms in half, right? So we've got two terms and then the sign and two more terms on the other side. What do the two on the left have in common? Well, they both have a 2 and an x. So I'm going to take a 2x out of this side, and that will leave me with 4x cubed plus 3. Now, let's look at the right side. Remember, if there's a negative sitting here, we always factor out a negative. And what is in both 28x cubed and 21? What divides both of those? A 7. But we're going to take out a negative 7 since that center thing is a negative. So negative 28x cubed divided by negative 7 is 4x cubed. Negative 21 divided by negative 7 is plus 3. And now we've factored each half. Now we look at each of the big halves that we've got here. And what does this left split and this right split have in common? Well, that thing that's in the parentheses, that 4x cubed plus 3 is what they have in common. And we're going to go ahead and factor that out. Remember, factoring is dividing. So when we divide out that 4x cubed plus 3, what do we have left? Well, on the left-hand side, we have a 2x. On the right-hand side, we have a minus 7. And those two terms together make our factor